Ladies and gentlemen, hello and welcome. The game in the background is Warhammer 2 Total War, and the topic of the day, somewhat similar, Rome Total War. So, a remastered version of the original Rome Total War has been announced recently, and we've even seen premiere gameplay footage from several of the popular Warhammer and other general Total War games streamers come up today on YouTube for around 25 turns, I think, was the limit that they were allowed to stream. And, well, that's great news, don't get me wrong, and this is what I want us to sort of get out there immediately before we continue talking about anything. This is great news. Rome Total War is my most played Total War game to date. I have about 1,000 or so hours in Warhammer 1, I think, and I'm around maybe 3,000 in Warhammer 2. I haven't checked in a while, but that's sort of my rough estimate. Rome 2 I've played for an okay amount of hours as well, I think around 1,000. Rome 1, though, I've played for years. From 2005 to, I genuinely think around 2008, 9, 10, I've played that game very actively, and then till today, you know, till Warhammer 2 and 1 were released, I still played that game on and off, depending on the mood, you know. And there's ample reasons for that. There's ample reason, and I very often talk about these things. I even did a Total War Warhammer tier list of all the games, and I sort of talked about which ones are my favourite, and so on and so forth, and yes, I'm very open about those things, and I loved Rome 1, and I still do, to an extent. So, I need to sort of bring this up first before I get into the actual discussion, what I want to talk about. This is coming from someone that, once again, really, really loves Rome Total War. It getting remastered is not the greatest news ever. It's not bad news, it's great news, but it's not the greatest thing ever that CA has done. Mostly because it's not even CA doing this, if you want to get technical, but no, this is not the greatest thing ever because it's not that important. Now, it's not that important for a few reasons. First of all, the actual remaster isn't that much of a big deal, if we're being honest about it. I mean, sure, it's going to run a little bit better on modern systems. That's always good. It's gonna be a blast for a lot of people that are nostalgic about the game to sort of go through it again and all of that. Great. All of that is correct. All of that is true. Fine. But then I take a look at like my YouTube recommended page and I see a bunch of people heralding the return of Rome Total War as the greatest strategy game, along with Medieval, ever created, and that finally CA is going back to their roots, and that finally things are right with the world because old school games are the best, and everything else that they've done after Medieval is trash, and all of that, and well, no. No, that is not true. That is, I dare say, almost objectively not true. Nostalgia is one hell of a powerful thing. It's one hell of a beautiful thing as well, right? Don't get me wrong. Nostalgia is awesome. Like, the feeling of nostalgia is awesome most of the time. But it's also extremely powerful and misguiding most of the time, if you think about it. Nostalgia can make you think things are way better than they are, and things were way better than they are. Rome wasn't that perfect of a game. Rome had its own problems. Rome still has many of its own problems. Just like Warhammer 2 does. I talk about siege battles pretty much in every video that I make about Warhammer 2, and you know, I will continue to do so until Warhammer 3 comes out and hopefully fixes the sieges. But my point is, I get it if you don't like the magic behind Warhammer 2, but to say that the original Rome was perfect in every way, ooh, I will argue. That is a hill I'm willing to die on. I will argue with you on that. Again, I feel the need to stress out. This is coming from someone who thinks that that game is bloody amazing, and someone that's played it for years and years of his life, spent a good chunk of his childhood and teenage years playing that game, and loved it. But it's also coming from someone who knows fully well the power of nostalgia. And, well, I feel the need to respond to people like this, and this isn't like a personal gripe or anything. I'm trying to just have a civil discussion about something. Rome was simple. For its day, it was very complex, but for modern times, Rome is simple. Now, it does have some elements in the grand strategy department, like population and all of that, that are rarely seen nowadays, right? I mean, take a look at Warhammer, that's kind of one of the little bit unrealistic, and, well, unrealistic in Warhammer, I know. But one of the things that sort of does occasionally seem to be lacking from the game is any kind of population mechanic. You just have an infinite amount of manpower wherever you go, and it's never an issue. Now, that sort of kind of makes sense in the Warhammer world as well, if you think about it. I mean, the Empire isn't exactly going to run out of manpower, but, you know, the High Elves, yeah, that's a different story. You can't just keep spamming your Swordmasters of Hoeth. Those are rare, in the lore and otherwise, you know? It takes like hundreds of years for them to train or something ridiculous like that, so a kind of population system or a unit limit system would be, I guess, welcome in many situations, and proof of that kind of we could suppose that proof of that kind of is SFO, one of the most popular mods for Warhammer. Not my cup of tea exactly due to some of its changes, mostly in the buildings department. I like the unit changes and all of that, but the buildings are a little bit meh for me. But anyways, like, regardless of that, sure, there's a couple of things missing, but the AI and the pathfinding in Rome was atrocious. Rome was horribly imbalanced. The political AI of Rome was dumb as all hell. I mean, I think please do not attack or we will attack is still a meme out there somewhere, and people still mention that and joke about that decades after the game was released, which does have a quality in and of itself, of course, but to claim that it was a perfect game, problematic. To claim that it is a better game than anything CA have released since, I mean, you know what, you can have your own opinion on pretty much everything, and I can agree or disagree with it, but that's one thing. But to say that, like, CA have been on a downward spiral and that their quality has just gone down the drain since Rome and all of those things, like, come on, no, it hasn't. No, it's just... Look, I feel like I need to talk a little bit more about myself and sort of justify these perhaps harsh comments. I've been talking about pretty much a similar topic for years now, and that is that I don't necessarily agree with the direction a lot of the modern Total War games are taking. I didn't necessarily agree with the changes of how garrisons work. I still think Rome's garrisons were better, where you could manually control the garrison. You station troops, and the troops you station are there. There is no garrison, right? The general focus... Not general, but general as in military commander. The military commander focus of the modern Total War games, I'm not entirely a great fan of that. I think captains should be able to command smaller armies and lead raids and stuff like that, and you shouldn't have to just build stack upon stack and then fight with that. I think that dulls down the game a little bit and makes it, hell, in some aspects even less interesting, but these are all problems of modern Total War games, don't get me wrong, there's plenty of them, and there's plenty there to dislike, especially if you're nostalgic about the old games or just prefer Rome and the older systems in most situations. Fair enough, but modern Total War games also brought us this. Now, don't get me wrong, this is mostly just visual eye candy, and it's not necessarily just, you know, very influential gameplay-wise, but it is important. It is something. Modern Total War games also brought us replenishing units that you don't have to, you don't need to replenish manually. And if you think that that's dumbing the game down, well, no, it's just making everything a little bit more playable and a little bit more neat, because a difference between 159 and 160 units in a battalion or a block of infantry functionally makes, you know, functionally there is no difference. In my head, it makes all the difference because I have OCD when it comes to stuff like that, right? And I think for most people, it's not a matter of efficiency, it's a matter of, you know, shite. It looks ugly when, you know, it's not at full strength and I need to go into battle with these troops. That's at least part of the reason, of course. But anyways, like I said, I've criticized tons of Total War games. I've criticized Warhammer, I've criticized Three Kingdoms, Empire, I've talked about all sorts of problems and stuff like that, and with all of that said, I feel like people are very often blinded by nostalgia. And I don't mind you know, I'm not here to say to anyone, you know, you shouldn't be excited about this game, or you shouldn't, like, it really doesn't matter. I have no right to say anything, period, to anyone about how they should think, feel, or even, you know, at the end of the day, nobody even cares or asks for my opinion directly on the matter. This is not what I'm trying to get across. This is not like a you're all wrong kind of video. And that's also like strawmanning the argument a little bit. It's not you're all wrong. I think it's around 50-50, the situation currently for the hype and everything. Half the people are like, yes, awesome, it's a, you know, remaster of my favorite game, good. And look, it's a remaster of one of my favorite games too. I'm excited for it, don't get me wrong. But it's also $30. $15 if you have the original game right now, and like $15 for that, really? Ugh. Okay, what do we get new out of it? Well, not much. We get an uglier map. I will... This is a hill I will die on as well. The world map is uglier. I much, much, much prefer the original terrain design for Rome. I hope that they change it. I hope that they improve it as time progresses and as, you know, it gets closer to release. But it's getting released, like, next month, so chances of that happening, slim. Other than that, we do get merchants now, we do get, like, some fixes, the AI gets a little bit of an improvement, so on and so forth. Like, it does feel like the game is upgraded a little bit, but it's also going to kill all the mods for Rome, which there are hundreds for. It does bring Alexander and, what's it called? Barbarian Invasion together in the same package, so that's cool, but honestly, I feel like it's not that big of a difference. I mean, it's a little bit of a visual upgrade here and there, and okay, some of the mechanics are fixed, and I guess they do a better job of just fixing the vanilla game than most overhaul mods do, because most of them just change too much about the game. But at the same time, it's not Rome 3 Total War, it's just a remaster of Rome 1, and it's not even that fundamental of a remake, right? The game doesn't look as good as Warhammer 2, it looks like Rome 1.5, maybe, right? It looks like had Rome been released a few years later, right? That's what the game looks like. It looks like a game released, I guess, slightly after Medieval, or maybe around the time of Medieval. Total War, that's what it looks like. There are some very important changes in terms of the UI, the unit controls, and so on, that have been just ported over from stuff like Warhammer and Three Kingdoms. The fact that you can rotate formations with Alt, or you can drag formations up and down like you can in Warhammer. It's no longer as finicky to move units around it's more intuitive and more straightforward and simple to move units around now, and that's great. But at the same time, you know, it's just Rome Total War, and well, there's a reason Warhammer 2 and Warhammer have more players now than Rome does. Rome was a great game, don't get me wrong. Rome was a phenomenal game in its time, and even today Rome stands up pretty well to a lot of strategy games out there, but what I'm trying to get across is it's not perfect. And you cannot argue that everything that CA has done is terrible since, and that Rome is the best, because, one, the player base doesn't reflect that. Warhammer has more players than any other. I think like most or most, if not all, of the other historical Total War games put together. And there's a reason for that, right? There's a reason for that. There's a reason that Rome is still played today, but there's also a reason why it's not the most popular Total War game. It's as simple as that. And, yeah. The reason I say this is there is plenty of criticism for the remake. Like, it's too pricey, it hasn't changed much, it's, you know, so on and so forth. And to some extent, I do agree with those people, but there's also, like I said, I've seen it come up on, like, Twitter and YouTube and stuff, where people are just salivating over the fact that now the perfect game has been re-released and it's now even more perfect. And it's like, you know, don't get me wrong, I love it too, but it's not perfect. So yeah, this game getting released, it's good news, but it's not the best news. It's not perfect. That is all. Very short video, very short, like, little bit about what I think about the whole situation, and tell me what you think about the re-release of Rome. Look, I'm very nostalgic towards it as well. I haven't played it in like a couple of years, and I'm definitely going to pick it up immediately as soon as it comes out, and I'm probably going to do even videos on it. That's not even a point of contention here. I most likely will, but like I said, just try and keep a cool head about it, and try and look at things objectively, because I have a feeling that when you actually go back and play an older game, which is 90% of the time the case with nostalgia, you think that, oh man, Rome was so perfect. You go and play it and you're like, oh, phew, this isn't as good as I remember it. And the AI is brain dead, and these battles aren't as exciting for me as the ones in Warhammer 2. I'm not casting around huge spells. Fair enough, a lot of people don't like magic and prefer historical Total War games. A lot of respect for you folks. It's not the key point that I'm trying to make here, but you know, you're going to sort of try and be like, oh, yeah, maybe I had a little bit of a distorted vision about it, so I'm just trying to basically tell people to keep that in mind. But yeah, anyways, other than that, I'm excited for the game. I'm definitely excited for the game. I can't wait to pick it up, but try and be realistic about it is, I guess, my message. Thank you very much for watching, ladies and gentlemen. Like, subscribe down if you enjoyed the video, and I just smothered those words together. Not that it matters, really. Have fun, take care, and bye-bye.